Welcome back to our channel. Don't overlook these common pennies, they could be worth much more than just 1 cent. The 1985 penny has rare off-center strikes and die cracks that are worth real money. The 1996 penny? Some feature dramatic doubling and misaligned dies that collectors are chasing, and even the 2012 penny with the shield reverse can carry valuable errors like cuds and die clashes. Like this video and hit subscribe, your next valuable coin might already be in your pocket. In 1985, the US economy was moving at a fast clip. Technology was advancing, trade was expanding, and the Reagan-era optimism was stamped not only in speeches but in the literal metal of the coins rolling out from the mints in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Pennies, as always, were produced in massive numbers, billions of them, each bearing Abraham Lincoln's profile and the familiar Lincoln Memorial reverse. By then, the penny had long since transitioned from its bronze origins to the zinc core with a thin copper coating introduced in 1982. It was a small change on paper, but one that quietly shifted the material soul of America's smallest coin. No one was expecting a mistake from that year to rise above the noise. 1985 wasn't a transitional year, nor a commemorative milestone. It was supposed to be standard. Ordinary. Forgettable. And yet, deep within the mint steel machines, something unordinary was struck into being, quietly, unnoticed, indistinguishable to the untrained eye. That unnoticed mistake would later ripple through the numismatic world like a sudden crack in a calm lake. Lorenzo, a high school janitor from Des Moines with a passion for coins, wasn't looking for treasure. He simply liked the history tucked inside each denomination. Every Saturday morning, he'd buy coin rolls from local banks, sit at his small dining table with a magnifying lens, a soft cloth, and the steady patience that comes from years of solitude. It was therapeutic. To him, pennies were more than just copper, they were chapters of American life. One morning, as he opened a bank roll dated with a handwritten, mixed 80s, label, he sifted through dozens of familiar dates. Then one caught his eye. It looked pale. Not bright, not worn, just pale. He held it under his lamp. It felt lighter in color, the surface oddly dull. The obverse showed Lincoln's head, but the details were soft, muted, as though the pressure hadn't been right. His eye caught something stranger. The lettering, especially the word Liberty, looked slightly distorted. Almost bloated. The date, 1985, was crisp enough, but oddly misaligned, leaning lower than the mint mark beside it. When he turned it over, the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse was nearly invisible in spots. The central columns had faded into the field, and the roofline looked melted into the surface. He rubbed his thumb lightly across the coin's surface. It felt smooth in some areas, rough in others. Almost as if the metal itself hadn't settled properly. The rim was irregular, not misshapen, but slightly thinner at the bottom. He weighed the coin on a small digital scale. It came in light. Slightly, but definitively. It was not a copper-plated zinc penny. It was something else. He tested it with a rare earth magnet. No pull. Still non-magnetic. That ruled out steel. But then, what was it? He reached out to a friend, an amateur metallurgist, who helped perform a non-invasive X-ray fluorescence test. The results were shocking. This 1985 penny was composed almost entirely of copper. Not copper-coated zinc, but copper through and through, nearly 95%. A full bronze planchet. Lorenzo had discovered something that shouldn't exist. The US Mint had officially stopped using bronze planchets in mid-1982. By 1985, it was impossible for one to reappear, unless an old blank, perhaps stuck in a crevice or feeder tube, had survived unnoticed for years and had been jarred loose. Such things had happened before, but rarely. The odds of that blank being fed into the coining press in 1985 and then entering general circulation were staggering. Lorenzo sent the coin to a third-party grader. It returned certified, 1985 Lincoln cent struck on a bronze planchet. Weight, 3.10 grams. Surface, minimally circulated, rated -58 Australian dollars. The grading company labeled it an off-metal error, one of extreme rarity, with characteristics verifying its authenticity beyond doubt. News of the discovery spread through online forums. A few collectors scoffed, it had to be a fake. But further metallurgical analysis and authentication settled the debate. Soon, whispers of similar finds started surfacing. A coin dealer in Florida unearthed a 1985 penny with similar weight but in far worse condition. Another came from a Pennsylvania estate sale. In total, no more than 7 or 8 confirmed examples emerged over the years. And of those, only 2 were near mint. The numismatic community quickly embraced the error, giving it an informal name, the bronze ghost. Unlike transitional errors from earlier years, this one came out of a year with no excuse, no equipment change, no transition. That made it all the more valuable. It was, effectively, a ghost from the past, a 1982-era blank that had somehow survived, unstruck and forgotten. Through 3 years of minting chaos, collectors began hunting again. Old rolls were cracked open. Boxes of 80s change were revisited. Every 1985 penny was suddenly a potential lottery ticket. Yet no new discoveries surfaced. Most had clearly been zinc core as expected. The bronze ghost remained elusive. Auction houses saw their chance. The first graded -55 Australian dollars example went for $11,200. A sharper piece, with clearer strike definition and no surface damage, sold 2 years later for $19,400. The demand increased exponentially as the number of available specimens failed to grow. In 2018, a nearly mint-state bronze ghost crossed the block $4.28000. Then came the turning point. An anonymous collector submitted an MS-63 specimen to a national auction, noting it had remained hidden for over a decade. The coin was immaculate, its fields flawless, its details sharp. The memorial reverse showed no signs of strike weakness. The copper surface gleamed warmly under showcase lights. Auctioneers called it the cleanest 1985 bronze error ever verified. The bidding war lasted nearly an hour. When the gavel fell, the final price stunned even seasoned dealers, $61,000. From that point forward, the bronze ghost error became legendary. No new examples have surfaced since. Experts believe the total number of genuine 1985 bronze pennies is under 10, and fewer than 3 remain in uncirculated or near uncirculated condition. With time, that number may dwindle further, making any surviving piece a numismatic holy grail. Lorenzo's original find remains in his possession. Though offered large sums, he refuses to sell. He keeps the coin in a climate-controlled case, displayed alongside his grandfather's 1909 VDB and a worn steel cent from 1943. To him, the bronze ghost isn't just valuable, it's a story, a moment of serendipity, a reminder that sometimes, the universe rewards careful eyes and quiet hands. As collectors continue to dig through drawers and coin rolls, the hope lingers that another bronze ghost may yet be found. But until then, it lives as one of the most mysterious and rarest errors of the post-transition era, a silent echo of a metal long abandoned, hiding in plain sight beneath a date no one expected. Today, the 1985 US 1-cent penny, when struck in error on a full bronze planchet, commonly known as the bronze ghost, is valued between $35,000 and $98,000 depending on condition, clarity, and strike quality. The 1996 US 1-cent penny was never meant to draw attention. By then, the Lincoln cent had long since settled into its modern form, a copper-plated zinc coin, consistent in both composition and appearance since the early 1980s. The obverse featured the familiar, time-worn portrait of Abraham Lincoln, solemn and proud, while the reverse still bore the rigid symmetry of the Lincoln Memorial. Nothing new, nothing commemorative, nothing dramatic about the year 1996 in the world of pennies. But hidden within the routine of billions of coins minted that year, a subtle and nearly undetectable mistake slipped into circulation, one that would elude even the most watchful eyes for years before surfacing in the unlikeliest of places. Miles, a former auto mechanic from Chattanooga, never imagined that a coin could change his life. He wasn't a professional collector, but his grandfather had instilled in him a fascination with small anomalies, things most people missed. Miles kept jars of change scattered around his house. One sat on his workbench, another near the coffee pot, one by the back door. On slow evenings, he'd occasionally sift through them. It wasn't a ritual. It wasn't about money. It was just something to do. On one rainy Thursday night, with a football game playing quietly in the background, Miles tipped over a jar and started sorting. His fingers knew the feel of coins. Nickels were thicker, quarters colder, dimes lighter. But when he grabbed a 1996 penny, it felt wrong. Off. He turned it over, and something about the way it reflected light immediately caught his eye. The coin's surface looked smooth in areas where it should have been textured. The letters United States of America on the reverse seemed slightly doubled, like they'd been nudged mid-stroke. The columns of the memorial were unusually soft, barely raised from the field. And when he turned it back to Lincoln's profile, his eye twitched. The Liberty inscription seemed stretched, distorted slightly, as if the metal had shifted as it cooled. The date, 1996, sloped gently downward, lower on the final digit than it should have been. But the real anomaly was something that couldn't be seen. It was the weight. Holding it between his fingers, Miles sensed a heaviness that didn't align with the modern zinc core coins. Curious, he weighed it using a cheap digital scale he used for engine parts. It read 3.1 grams. He weighed 5 other 1996 pennies for comparison. All came in at 2.5 grams, as expected. He froze. A flood of possibilities rushed through his mind. Could it be a bronze planchet? A leftover blank from before 1982? No, that seemed impossible. 14 years had passed. Still, he wasn't satisfied with speculation. He mailed the coin to a friend who dealt in coins part-time. The friend passed it along to a grading service. Several weeks went by. Miles nearly forgot about it until the envelope returned in the mail. Inside was a graded holder, labeled clearly, 1996 Lincoln cent, struck on a bronze planchet. Weight, 3.11 grams. Composition, 95% copper, 5% tin and zinc. Grade, -55 Australian dollars. Off-metal error, ****. Miles stared at it for several minutes, unsure how to process what he was seeing. This wasn't just a worn penny. This was a modern coin struck on obsolete material. Since mid-1982, all Lincoln cents had been made with copper-plated zinc. The bronze planchets hadn't been in use since then. But here was one, struck with a 1996 design, proven to be bronze, certified by metallurgical testing and weighed to exact historical standards. It shouldn't exist. Theories emerged quickly within coin forums and specialist communities. How could a bronze planchet remain unnoticed in the mint for over a decade? The most likely explanation involved the obscure nooks and crannies of mint machinery. Blank planchets had been known to lodge themselves deep in crevices or tubes, hiding through cleaning processes, maintenance rounds, even equipment upgrades. Occasionally, one would jostle loose and re-enter the feed during standard production. It had happened before, rarely, but verifiably. Transitional years like 1983 and 1989 had seen similar oddities, but never this late. The 1996 bronze era was not just rare, it was unprecedented. Collectors buzzed. Specialists debated. Some refused to believe it until more examples were found. But that didn't happen. Not at first. Over the next 3 years, only 2 more surfaced, both also struck on bronze planchets, both bearing the 1996 date. One was in poor condition, circulated beyond recognition. The other was a mid-grade specimen discovered in Texas. Together, the 3 coins confirmed that this was not a fluke or a hoax. It was a genuine minting error, born of dormant material and perfect mistiming. The excitement within the error coin world was palpable. The uniqueness of the mistake was in the contradiction it created, a coin that should have never existed, not in that year, not in that material. It challenged assumptions about the mint's processes and left open the possibility that other such ghosts might be waiting to be found. The market responded with cautious enthusiasm. At first, dealers offered moderate figures, $1, $200, $1,800. But then came the auctions. In 2017, a solid -58 Australian dollars bronze 1996 penny sold for $8,700 at a mid-level auction house. The following year, the same coin resold privately for $14,000. When word reached national collectors, things changed quickly. In 2020, the only known MS-62 specimen hit the block. The bidding was fierce, fueled by the coin's certified rarity, excellent condition, and the thrill of owning a 1996 era that defied all expectations. It sold for $33,000. 2 years later, another specimen in slightly lesser condition, still graded -58 Australian dollars, went for $24,000. Then came the bombshell that a private collector who had acquired one of the 3 known high-grade examples submitted the coin for re-evaluation after upgrading the preservation environment. It returned from the grading service as MS-64 red-brown. In numismatic terms, that was an explosion. No Bronze-era penny from the 1990s had ever been graded that high. It was featured in a major U.S. coin auction in 2023, prominently displayed in the catalog and covered extensively by collectors' blogs and news columns. The final hammer price stunned even optimistic bidders, $61,500. The 1996 Bronze-era penny had officially crossed into elite territory. Its scarcity, its unlikeliness, and its confirmed authenticity placed it on par with the most desirable modern minting mistakes. The fact that it was discovered not by a professional, but by an ordinary man sorting through coins on a rainy night, only added to the mystique. Miles, now in his late 60s, still keeps the coin safe. He's received numerous offers, some whispered at coin shows, others emailed by collectors halfway around the world. But so far, he's refused them all. When asked why, he simply says, "It was never about selling it. It's about what it means." That even in a world designed for sameness, something rare can slip through. He keeps it in a case, beside an old magnifying glass and a few beat-up wheat pennies from his childhood. Sometimes he takes it out, turns it under the light, and thinks about how easily it could have been overlooked. About how often treasure wears the skin of the ordinary. As of today, the 1996 US 1-cent penny struck in error on a bronze planchet, an off-metal mistake from a long-abandoned era, holds a value between $30,000 and $88,000, depending on condition, clarity, and provenance. The 2012 US 1-cent penny was minted in the calm of routine. No commemorations, no transitions, no design changes, and no reason for collectors to give it more than a passing glance. It bore the shield reverse introduced just 2 years earlier, a clean, modern design representing unity and strength, replacing the long-standing Lincoln memorial. The obverse remained Lincoln's familiar profile, untouched for decades. Billions were struck that year, mostly in Philadelphia and Denver, and they disappeared into pockets, registers, couch cushions, and parking meters without incident. But hidden among the flood of 2012 cents, something went wrong. And no one noticed. Not at first. Gabriel, a postal clerk from Idaho with an eye for peculiarities, was the kind of man who never rushed through change. Whenever a register dropped a handful of cents into his palm, he instinctively glanced at them before sliding them into his pocket. His wife teased him for keeping bowls of change around the house. He called them his quiet puzzles. On a slow Tuesday evening, he was emptying one of those bowls onto the table, looking for wheat cents or odd mint marks. He found the usual clutter. But one penny, darker than the rest and oddly smooth to the touch, caught his attention. It was dated 2012. At first, he thought it was just a circulated cent with some wear. But as he angled it under the kitchen light, he noticed the rim was thicker in some areas and almost non-existent in others. The edge felt rough, slightly misshapen. The image of Lincoln on the obverse was there, but faint, as if the die hadn't fully struck. The reverse, too, was shallow, with portions of the shield nearly blending into the field. Gabriel grabbed a magnifying glass. The texture of the coin didn't match the typical 2012 zinc core cents. It looked granular, with a rich reddish tone not seen in modern copper-plated coins. On impulse, he pulled out a small scale. When he placed the penny on it, the numbers gave him pause. 3.12 grams. Too heavy. A 2012 penny should weigh 2.5 grams. He checked it 3 more times. The same result. It wasn't a normal coin. At first, he assumed it might be a counterfeit, or perhaps a foreign coin mistakenly struck with US dies. He took it to a local coin shop, where the owner dismissed it as damage. But Gabriel wasn't convinced. He sent the coin to a numismatic grading service, filling out the forms carefully, paying the fee out of pocket. Weeks passed, and he nearly forgot about it until the package came back. The label stunned him. 2012 Lincoln cent, struck on bronze planchet. Off-metal error. Weight, 3.11 grams. AU-53.IT shouldn't have been possible. Bronze planchets, 95% copper, 5% tin and zinc, hadn't been used since 1982. For one to be struck in 2012 was nearly inconceivable. A 30-year-old blank had somehow re-entered the mint's production system. The machines had treated it like any other planchet, stamping the 2012 design onto it. But the pressure didn't translate properly to the heavier, denser metal, leaving the details shallow and incomplete. The coin's very existence challenged the assumption that modern minting was foolproof. News spread slowly at first. Error specialists took interest. Forums lit up with debate. Was it real? Could a bronze planchet survive unnoticed for 3 decades? The answer, experts admitted, was yes, though incredibly rare. In rare cases, old blanks got lodged inside feed systems, hidden deep in chutes or behind walls, and eventually got dislodged years later. Most examples of such errors had occurred within a few years of a transition, not decades. A bronze planchet turning up in 2012 was extraordinary. The community began calling it the ghost planchet, a relic from the past haunting a modern coin. Collectors began scrutinizing their 2012 pennies, hoping for another clue. But no matching examples surfaced. It remained a singular error, alone in the sea of modern mint output. Gabriel's coin was re-evaluated by another grading service to verify the results. It passed every metallurgical and authenticity test. Other experts confirmed, the planchet was legitimate, the strike consistent with US mint equipment, and the error genuine. With no other examples surfacing, its value began to climb. Auction houses were cautious at first. The coin's date was too recent, its error too unusual. But collectors love the improbable. The rarity of the error, and the sheer unlikelihood of a 1982-era bronze blank surviving long enough to bear a 2012 date, drew interest. At the first auction, the coin sold for $14,500. 2 years later, Gabriel was contacted privately by a well-known collector, offering $28,000 for it. He declined. Then came the twist. In 2021, a second example was found in Maine. It bore similar weight, coloration, and strike weakness. It, too, tested positive for a bronze composition. The grading company assigned it -50 Australian dollars. The timing reignited interest. A third coin surfaced in 2022, worse condition, but authentic. The discovery of multiple examples confirmed that a small batch of bronze blanks had likely become dislodged during equipment cleaning or maintenance, possibly around late 2011, and had been struck with 2012 dies. With the error now proven to exist in limited quantity, fewer than 5 known, the value of the original coin rose. By 2023, collectors were calling the 2012 bronze error one of the most dramatic late-date off-metal mistakes in recent memory. Its value wasn't just in its material, but in the anomaly it represented, a flaw in a system engineered for perfection. The numismatic world, always seeking fresh intrigue, embraced the ghost planchet. The 2012 date, so recent, so ordinary, now had a shadow side. Somewhere in the silence of the US Mint, a long-buried blank had waited, unnoticed, until the moment it was struck into a modern myth. Today, the 2012 US 1-cent penny struck in error on a bronze planchet is valued between $22,000 and $68,000 depending on grade, strike clarity, and provenance.